my bad eating is going to affect me in 5 to 10 years time, but all the products, all the success I'm experiencing now in 2020 is nothing to do with what I did last year, if that makes sense. It's everything I did 5 years ago, 9 years ago, etc. Yes, I did things last year which is helping me today, but really the reason I'm in where I am now, and I would say a nice position, is because all the hard slog I've been going through over the last 9 years. So moving forward, we now need to focus on thought up-leveling. You need to up-level your brain to begin with. So first of all, these are two very important lines on this graph, and a lot of people are completely oblivious to it. So on the left hand side, if we focus over here, we have memory, okay, and then also time. So for example, most people, like, what is it now, it's at 12:30. If I asked you what you had for breakfast this morning, most people probably think, give it a second, go, yeah, I had this, this and this, okay, and that's because minimal time has passed, and so therefore your memory is pretty fresh, so you know what you did a few hours ago. If I asked you what you had for breakfast last Tuesday, or 3 Tuesdays ago, all of a sudden a little bit of time has gone, and guess what's happened to your memory? Now obviously this isn't to scale. I would actually say, yeah, but you get the you understand, right? If I asked you what you had for lunch a month ago, it's like, Jesus Christ, I have no idea. And that's just because we're human. It's our short-term memory bank. It's called short-term for a reason. And then over here on the right-hand axis, you have the results, again, over time. And most people are too short-term thinking when it comes to their actions and the results, okay? So I have a bad habit called I eat shitloads of junk food every night, which is not good. I have at least a Magnum or a lollipop a night, bags of crisps, chocolate, okay? So what's happening here is that I'm doing bad actions, okay? Which means, so it's not necessarily a memory thing here, but I'm doing all of these actions now, over here. But the thing is, the results of me eating bad food, I won't see for at least 5 years. At least 5 years, most likely 10. So all of the health type things you're experiencing now is basically what you've been doing over the last 5, or the habit, your health habits, good or bad, over the last 5 to 10 years. And so over here, I'll then start, experiencing, like when I'm 35, oh shit, I'm 34. So when I'm 40, I'll probably start experiencing a bit of a pouch, etc. And so it's the same with business. So if you start doing good habits like learning more, etc., you won't notice anything for the next year, at least. And I remember doing loads of stuff, years and years ago, going, well, this is pointless. I've had no uplift in my business as a result of this. And then a few years later, it finally clicks now. So hopefully that makes sense. I could go in a lot more detail with these. And this is where delayed gratification comes in. So over here on the left hand, you have actions, okay? Now, if you do multiple similar actions over time, they become habits, right? Same with your thinking. If you have similar thoughts over time, repeatedly, they'll turn into mental habits. Now, along with these actions, you have dopamine, okay? I guess I could draw another axis for dopamine. But what tends to happen is, a rule of thumb is that you will do a bad habit, like eating bad food every night whilst I'm binging on Netflix, etc. So what's happening is, at the same time, if I had a dopamine axis, I'm getting a high level of dopamine over here because it's yummy and nice and yummy, but it's a negative action, and then eventually it comes back to zero, or because I stop eating or whatever. So, oopsie, negative. Sorry, I've just drawn the wrong thing here. And then you go back to zero. And likewise, if you do a positive action, you then have. Oh dear Lord, 1 second. Sorry. Sorry, 1 second. Yeah. So So what happens is eventually, if I get rid of that line, sorry, I've I've completely ballsed it up. I balls the wrong thing up. So basically, if you do something, let's do another example. Okay, so let's say you go for a run. Okay, for me, I never run. So for me, it's, sorry, I confused myself because I got the axis the wrong way around. So for me, it's something which I don't want to do. Okay, it's a hard thing to do. So down here, I'm going for the run. I'm not I will be getting some endorphins and whatnot, but it's pain in the short term. But eventually, the results over time are positive. So yeah, the results are positive. So this is positive results, negative results, etc. And basically, if you keep on doing this, you'll end up doing something like this. And it's the same the other way around. So if I, oh dear, Control Z, oh dear Lord, come on. So if I do things which I like I want to eat lots of crisps, lots of dopamine, etc. But guess what happens? The results, so eventually you'll end up with something that looks like this, or something that looks like this. Sorry, I've absolutely balls that example up, but hopefully you get the idea. And you can sort of extrapolate expectancy with this. So, and this is where I guess habits. So I should probably draw on habits instead of actions here. But what happens is I guess it's like if you're in a boat going, let's say, across the ocean or the seas, if you're even at 1 degree out over a long period of time, you're going to end up, or let's take flying. You know, if you're flying and you go off track 1 degree, after 60 miles, you'll be 1 mile away from your target. So, for example, so so when you're looking at bad habits or bad actions or whatever it may be, all you need to be doing is going down here a little bit, and you may not notice. In fact, it needs to be. It's not linear, so it's probably like this. So you feel that nothing bad is happening, but then if you keep on doing this, eventually it'll look like this. As I said, it's non-linear. You'll see it's like 80-20. 80% of the move happens the last 20% of the time, and it's exactly the same with positive stuff. So if you start reading loads and loads of books, doing all the right stuff, for the first, I would say, 1 to maybe 3 years, you're gonna not see much of an improvement. Mentally, yeah, you will, but physical results, like your bank account, not much. But then you'll have something like this. And so this is something this chart goes, sort of ties in with all the previous ones. You have to be aware of long-term results. It's massively important. So as I said, my bad eating is going to affect me in 5 to 10 years time, but all the products, all the success I'm experiencing now in 2020 is nothing to do with what I did last year, if that makes sense. It's everything I did 5 years ago, 9 years ago, etc. Yes, I did things last year which is helping me today, but really the reason I'm in where I am now, and I would say a nice position, is because all the hard slog I've been going through over the last 9 years. So this is really important. So now I'm going to jump into a little PowerPoint, because I tried doing this by drawing, and my hand, I had like the claw yesterday when I was drawing this out, and I just couldn't write anymore, so I was like, screw it. Let's get an old presentation out. So this is something which I called rapid knowledge assimilation, okay, and I need to talk about this a lot more because it is really important. This is what I've called it. So one trick that I've developed over the years is being able to enter a completely alien topic, space or subject and understand it to a very deep level relatively quickly, without having a degree in whatever that topic may be, etc. And you don't need to do. You'll be surprised. You can, like, if you did 20 hours worth of focused research into any new subject, you'll be far more clued up in that topic than 99.99999% of the population, if that makes sense. So basically, there are separate levels. Whereas, like, here's the Earth's crust. Most people, they're so fixated on, you know, what's happening on the surface, and they never look below the surface. So with everything, every topic, every issue there is, you need to look at, you know, every layer, like an onion, before. So this is critical before you come to an informed conclusion or decision or opinion on whatever you're researching. So basically, you have to. First of all, what is the topic? What are you trying to deep dive into? And what is the goal? You need a particular thing that you're aiming to. If you're just willy-nilly looking at something, you'll just be like rowing a boat with one oar. You'll just be going in circles. You need to have a purpose for your deep dive. So first of all, you need to explore the media narratives. So you have to understand that the masses, the sheeple, so the sheeple's opinion is based on the media, because people read Facebook posts or what's on the Sun newspaper, and they'll make an opinion based on our tabloids. And so you'll then have to identify what is that mainstream thought seesaw, because you will have like on one side over here where number one is, you'll have, I know, the far left, then you have the far right, and then you have the neutrals, etc. So you have to understand both sides of the coin. It's important. Like, even though you may be like massively anti something, you have to put yourself in their boots and try and understand why they are doing what they're doing. The most ridiculous example, I did this because I did it just out of my own integrity, like as in my own personal internal integrity. I researched a big deal into flat Earth theory. Now, I'm a pilot. I freaking know the Earth is an oblate spheroid. I love space. I love physics. I love science. Like, I'm 100% confident that it's an oblate spheroid. However, I spent hours looking into why flat earthers thought the Earth was flat before I put it to bed in my own mind. So yeah, I literally watched hours of their YouTube videos and stuff like that. Yeah, my own conclusion that it's bollocks. By the way, the Earth is not flat. So, but sorry if I've offended any flat earthers here. And if you are a flat earther, I don't think we'd get along. So then once you know what the mainstream thought seesaw is, you then have to look at what mainstream science / experts think. Now, you may think that all experts think the same thing, but they don't. And we've seen this with the COVID bollocks. There's all sorts of scientists, epidemiologists and virologists that are all saying different things. So what you'll have is a bit of a disconnect. So you have new data on one hand, and then you'll have diehards on the other side. So archaeology is a prime example. I've done a fair bit of research into archaeology. There are so many diehards in terms of archaeologists that have built their whole careers and professorships based on theories which are now being proven incorrect. Because new data is coming which is just completely obliterating their whole life's work. But these old diehards, these crusty old scientists or archaeologists, they're in power of position in the archaeological world. So it's against their interest to dismiss their own work. So unfortunately, in fields like this, you have to wait until these old crusty archaeologists die out, literally die, or leave that profession, and then new data can make it, actually get a hold of it. Again, I'm not going into archaeology now. And then you have to identify the power, influence and money trail. Now, you could just skip all of the above and go straight to the money trail, and that'll normally find you the correct answer. But you should go through the motions. And then using data, using everything you've discovered, then form your own reasoned opinion. Okay, this is absolutely critical. Then you need to stress test it using anticipated rebuttals by both sides of the party, regardless of which way you may be leaning. And if there are holes in your opinion, you need open, honest naivety. Okay, and then you just keep going back to this until you come to something which is pretty solid. And only then, once you've gone through all of this, you can come up with your own opinion. Okay, and that's it. At the end of the day, what you've discovered is not fact, or it may be fact, but at the end of the day, it's just your opinion. It's your own reasoned opinion. But this is my opinion, how you should form an opinion, instead of reading one article on YouTube, Facebook, whatever, or from your mate Dave down the pub, and then thinking that. And that happens all too often. or even just listening to a broadcast from the Prime Minister and believing everything the Prime Minister says. I'm being facetious now. So with rapid knowledge assimilation, you have to develop this knowledge tree. So I hate this is. Yeah, so this is what I just wrote earlier. Now I hate that these are old slides. So I did this in January. Okay, I'm gonna breeze through this because I don't want to talk about it. I was back in January. I knew nothing about Corona. And so I just did a deep dive. So the roots would be understanding basic biology, chemistry and all that sort of stuff, and just asking basic questions. And so eventually you start forming big chunks of this tree. So you start with the roots, then you need to start, then you get the trunk, then you get the branches, and then when you have a good understanding of what you think or of the topic you're researching, then you can look at all the little leaves and twigs and mini branches. Yeah, so that's basically it. So let's not dwell on that. Let's move on. It's one of those topics. It's like Trump, Brexit, Conservative or Tory, and now it's freaking CV. It's like anything else that wants to divide people up so easily. So next, before we go on, so hopefully that makes sense. So that's where I come from whenever I try and research freaking anything. So that is upgrading your brain. Okay, so now we need to get into wealth gen first principles.